The final major update for Baldur's Gate 3 is officially out. With it comes a bunch of new content, including a new subclass for each of the 12 classes, photo mode, crossplay, and even new spells as well. We'll be going over everything new with timestamps both on screen here and in the description, starting with the new subclasses. First of which is the Path of the Giant Barbarian. This bad boy is all about making space on the battlefield by enlarging yourself while tossing around both enemies and weapons all over the place, and quite literally kicking butts and taking names. When you first get this subclass at level 3, you get the Giant's Rage ability, which does all the things that a regular rage does, but also increases your size category by 1. In addition to that, your rage damage bonus is also doubled on throw attacks. Also at level 3, you get Vaprak's Greed, which is a passive that increases your carrying capacity by a quarter, and you gain the ability to cast Thaumaturgy whenever you want. Next up, at level 5, you'll be getting the Boot of the Giants ability, which is a bonus action kick, which is essentially a sort of super shove. This ability is still based off of your athletics, but unlike a regular shove, it deals your unarmed damage, which means anything that increases your unarmed damage, like Tavern Brawler or the Gloves of Crushing, will also increase the damage of this. And at level 6, you gain the Elemental Cleaver ability, which can only be used while you're raging, but makes it so your currently held weapon deals an additional 1d6 acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage. That's not all though, it also gives your weapon the thrown property, and if you throw it, it immediately reappears back in your hand. To make this ability even better, you can switch the damage type on the fly for absolutely free. It doesn't even cost a bonus action, so you can get really creative with this. Not to mention all of the elemental synergies it opens up with items like the Snowburst Ring. The final ability that this subclass gets is Mighty Impel at level 10. This is another ability that can only be used while you're enraged. However, this one does cost a bonus action. It is basically a free throw on any creature or object that is medium-sized or smaller. Uniquely enough for this ability though is the range is completely static, meaning regardless of how heavy the creature you're lifting is, you'll always be able to throw them the same range. Next up is the College of Glamour Bard, a subclass which is based on protecting your allies while charming any enemies who attack them in order to further debuff them. To this end, at level 3, when you first get the subclass, you get the Mantle of Inspiration ability. This uses both a bonus action and bardic inspiration in order to imbue up to 2 allies with 5 temp HP, and it makes it so that if they're hit with a melee attack while this temp HP is active, the attacker becomes charmed. At level 6, the temp HP increases to 8, and the number of targets increases to 3, while at level 10, the temp HP goes to 11, and the targets goes to 4. This ability is neat, but it isn't really useful until you get Mantle of Majesty Command at level 6. This is essentially a bonus action command spell that works guaranteed on any charmed targets. And once you use it the first time, you concentrate on it for the next 10 turns and you can recast it on each of those turns. Unfortunately, this is a once per long rest ability, which means you're really only going to get to use it 1 fight per day. But while it's active, it combines wonderfully with your Mantle of Inspiration, letting you even provoke attacks of opportunity to get a guaranteed command off right after. Third on our list is Death Domain Cleric, and this one lives up to the name, as it's all about dishing out massive amounts of necrotic damage late game, while early game it lets you double some of your cantrips. Starting at level 1, you gain Martial Weapons proficiency alongside Reaper, which allows your necromancy cantrips that usually only target one creature to instead target 2 separate creatures, essentially doubling your damage output, and this works wonderfully with some of the new spells added. At level 2, you gain the Touch of Death Channel Divinity. You can use this ability when you hit a creature with any melee attack. All it costs is your Channel Divinity charge, and it deals an extra 5 plus 2 times your cleric level necrotic damage, letting you do some pretty colossal bursts of damage pretty much at will. To make this even better, at level 6 you get Inescapable Destruction, making it so that all your necrotic damage ignores resistance. This of course works wonderfully with your final subclass feature, which you get at level 8, Divine Strike Necrotic. This is an ability that deals an extra 1d8 necrotic damage in addition to your weapon's regular damage when you make a melee attack with it. It only works once per turn, but hey, a little extra damage never hurt anybody. Well, besides the enemies. Number 4 is Circle of Stars Druid, a subclass that loves dealing radiant damage with specialized wild shapes and free casts of Guiding Bolt, all the while manipulating dice rolls however they want with the guidance of the heavens. When you first unlock this subclass at level 2, you gain the Guidance cantrip for free, and you also unlock Starry Form, a new way to use your wild shape charges. Unlike regular wild shapes, these forms last until long rest and don't actually shapeshift you. Instead, they give you a mix of passive and activated abilities depending on the form. The Archer form allows you to shoot enemies with a bonus action, the Chalice form allows you to heal allies whenever you cast a healing spell, and the Dragon form not only makes you more likely to pass concentration saving throws, but you also get to use a breath weapon as a bonus action. These forms get even better at level 10 with Twinkling Constellations, improving the damage and healing of Archer and Chalice respectively, and giving Dragon the ability to fly, as well as letting you switch to a different starry form as a free action once per turn without using a wild shape charge. Back at level 2, you also get 2 star maps, which is a resource that is refreshed by a long rest and is used to cast Guiding Bolt for free. At level 5 you have 3 star maps, and at level 9 you have 4. And the last feature we have to talk about is Cosmic Omen. You have 3 charges of this ability to use per long rest when you first get it, and it lets you either increase or decrease attack rolls, saving throws, or ability checks. And when you hit level 9, you also gain a 4th charge of this too. The next one we'll be taking a look at is Arcane Archer Fighter, a subclass that, as the name implies, uses arcane powers to boost their archery to create a whole bunch of effects so that you always have the right arrow for the job. When you first obtain this subclass at level 3, you gain Arcana and Nature proficiency, as well as the option of one of 3 cantrips. But most importantly, you also get to choose 3 of 8 arcane shots, each of which have unique effects. Almost all of them deal additional damage in their own way, but some of them also have unique effects like banishing, charming, or even blinding opponents. The spell save DC for all of these is determined by your int mod. Unfortunately, you can only use these arrows 4 times per short rest when you first get this ability, but at level 7 you can use them 7 times, and at level 10 you can use them 10 times. And at each of those levels you also get to permanently learn an additional arcane shot. It is worth noting that you can't stack these with special arrows like Arrows of Many Targets, and the ones that don't involve attack rolls like Piercing Arrow don't apply damage riders such as Sharpshooter or Hunter's Mark. And to add on to the mediocre abilities, at level 7 we have Magic Arrow, which makes all of your range attacks considered magical for the purposes of resistance. But at the same level we have Curving Shot, which makes it so whenever you miss with any magical range attack you can use a bonus action to attack the next closest target with the same attack instead, once per turn. Obviously, we'd rather hit our intended target, but hey, this one isn't bad if you're not doing anything else with your bonus action. This brings us to subclass number 6, the Way of the Drunken Master Monk, which is all about staying mobile with hit and run abilities while getting your opponents just as wasted as you are in order to sober them up with concussive force. When you get this subclass at level 3, you get Drunken Performance and Cheeky Tipple, the former of which just grants proficiency with performance, and the latter makes you immune to the negative effects of being drunk, as well as making it so that once per day when you drink alcohol, you regain half of your key points. And at the same level, you get Drunken Technique, which replaces your Flurry of Blows and pretty much does the same thing, but also gives 3 meters of move speed and the benefits of Disengage. This allows for some pretty fantastic hit and run strategies, especially when you consider the extra move speed that monks already get. At level 4, you get Intoxicating Strike, which takes either an action or a bonus action as well as a key point to possibly make somebody drunk by punching them. It's a con save for your enemy to see if they do get drunk, but whether or not they do, if you hit with this attack, you trigger your Life of the Party feature, which increases your AC and makes it so that you're more likely to hit drunk targets. At level 6, you get Leap to Your Feet, which makes it so that when you're prone, standing up only uses 1.5 meters of move speed, and more importantly, you get Redirect Attack. This is a reaction that costs a key point that triggers when somebody misses you with a melee attack, allowing you to make an unarmed attack in retaliation. Unfortunately, this does have some anti-synergy with the hit and run strategy that the rest of the subclass seems to want to do, but it's still fun when it works. Our penultimate ability is Sobering Realization, which costs an action and a key point, and you can only use it against a drunk target. But when you do hit, it deals an extra 2d8 psychic damage plus your wisdom modifier for some really big hits. Unfortunately, you also lose Life of the Party if you had it. Our last ability is Drunkard's Luck, which when you make an ability check, attack roll, or saving throw with disadvantage, you can spend 2 key points to negate the disadvantage once per round. Past the halfway point, we find Oath of the Crown Paladin, a tank that is more than happy to take hits on behalf of the team, who also gets unique access to spells like Spirit Guardians in order to shred anyone foolish enough to approach. Starting us off at level 1, we get Righteous Clarity, which is a bonus action channel oath ability that can target yourself or an ally to additionally grant their proficiency bonus to their attack rolls, just making it more likely that you can deal those big hits paladins are known for. At level 3, you get Champion Challenge and Turn the Tide as 2 more ways to use your channel oath. Champion Challenge makes it so that every enemy around you has to make a wisdom save, otherwise their attacks against other targets will have disadvantage. And Turn the Tide heals all your allies around you for a d6 plus your paladin level plus your charisma modifier. As with any paladin, you get extra oath spells from your subclass, but most notably for this one, you get Warding Bond at level 5, making yourself an even better tank for any allies. To add on to the self-sacrificial theme, you get Divine Allegiance at level 7. This makes it so that when an ally that is right next to you takes damage, you can use your reaction to heal them for 2 times your paladin level and take the same amount of damage yourself. And as another notable oath spell, you also get Spirit Guardians at level 9. This is already a good spell on clerics, but on a class like Paladin where you want to be up in everybody's face anyways, this just shreds through all the little fodder that you don't want to deal with smites. At number 7, we have Swarmkeeper Ranger, a damage dealer that uses their swarm to deal huge hits, a little bit of teleportation here and there, and even the odd bit of utility depending on the swarm they bond with. When you gain this subclass at level 3 and every level after, you can choose between one of 3 swarms, a legion of bees, a cloud of jellyfish, and a flurry of moths to accompany you in your journey. Each of these swarms can use one of 3 abilities once per round after you land an attack. The first is a damage option dealing a d6 of a specific damage type depending on the swarm, and this also benefits from Hunter's Mark. The second is a teleportation ability that can teleport you 5 meters away. Third depends on the swarm, with bees being able to knock enemies back, jellyfish being able to shock them, and moths being able to blind them. At level 10, these abilities improve, with bees also knocking enemies prone, jellyfish also disarming targets, and moths also slowing targets. Not to mention, each of their damage dies go up to a d8, and when you teleport with them, they give +2 AC as well. And at level 7, you get Writhing Tide. This is a bonus action that gives you a flying speed of 9 meters and lasts for 10 turns that you can use 3 times per long rest, and later at level 9 4 times. As a fun little bonus, while it's active, it also makes you immune to any surface effects. Next up on our list is the Charming Swashbuckler Rogue, a charisma-based melee-focused subclass that can go toe-to-toe with enemies fearlessly, with the help of a few dirty tricks and the odd insult to just make them feel bad. At level 3, you get Fancy Footwork and Rakish Audacity. Fancy Footwork is a fantastic kiting ability that makes it so when you melee attack someone, they cannot make opportunity attacks against you for the rest of that turn. While Rakish Audacity increases your initiative rolls by 2 when you first get it, 3 at level 5, and 4 at level 10. And to make it even better, you no longer need advantage to trigger your sneak attack so long as you're within melee and don't have disadvantage. If it isn't easy enough to get sneak attacks with the subclass, you also have a special sneak attack called Rakish Sneak Attack. This makes it so you can also use these abilities so long as the target is isolated. At level 4, you learn your charisma-based dirty tricks, Flick of the Wrist, Sand Toss, and Vicious Mockery. All of these are bonus actions that grant advantage after you hit with them. Flick of the Wrist is a weapon attack that has a chance to possibly disarm your enemies. Vicious Mockery is just a bonus action version of the cantrip, while Sand Toss does a d6 bludgeoning damage and has a chance to blind enemies. Uniquely enough though, this one, the spell save DC is calculated using your dexterity instead of charisma. And at level 9, you get this subclass's final ability, Panache. This is an action that can test your persuasion against an enemy's insight, and if they fail, they have disadvantage on attack rolls against all enemies except for you. You can also use this on non-enemies, and if it works, it'll charm them, provided they aren't a beast, construct, elemental, monstrosity, plant, or undead. So yeah, you know. If you're a fan of darkness and edge, we've got Shadow Magic Sorcerer next. A sturdy subclass that can abuse the powers of magical darkness, even teleporting through shadows, with a loyal hound to keep them company and help restore resources. At level 1, you get 2 passives in the form of Eyes of the Dark and Strength of the Grave. Eyes of the Dark lets you see in the dark up to 24 meters, and Strength of the Grave makes it so that once per long rest, when you hit 0 hit points, you instead regain 1. At level 3, you get the really good stuff, as you always have Darkness prepared, and you get a special version of it called Eyes of the Dark Darkness. This special version of it costs 2 sorcery points instead of a spell slot, and so long as you're concentrating on it, you can see in magical darkness. This is an insanely exploitable ability since most enemies won't even bother going into darkness and ranged attacks can't target you at all inside of it, so you can just stand in here forever and be immortal. At level 6, you get the Hound of Ill Omen to accompany you in your journeys. Once per short rest, you can use a bonus action and 3 sorcery points to summon a Shadow Mastiff to join you in your fight. This hound has the ability to place a random elemental omen on anyone it bites, and if you hit that person with a corresponding element, you regain sorcery points. It can also tangle up enemies with shadowy vines, and as a reaction when it's hit by a melee attack, it can splinter off into a copy of itself who also can splinter off into a copy of itself. And for your final ability at level 11, you get Shadow Walk. This is a bonus action that teleports you into any lightly or heavily obscured area, and afterwards, the next spell you cast this turn gains the benefits of Distant Spell. Keeping with the dark and edgy themes, now we're taking a look at Hexblade Warlock, which is a melee-focused monster that can obliterate enemies with huge hits, healing themselves in the process, and even summon undead specters from their corpses to help shred any survivors. To this end, at level 1, you get Hex Warrior, which gives you proficiency in medium armor, shields, and martial weapons, as well as Bind Hexed Weapon. This is an action that lets you bind to your main hand weapon, making its damage magical, making you proficient with it, and it uses your charisma modifier for attacks and damage rolls. And when you hit with this weapon, you have a 20% chance to apply Hexblade's Curse to the same target. The curse makes it so that any damage you deal to the target gains a bonus equal to your proficiency bonus, and the number you need to roll a crit hit while attacking them is reduced by 1. If they die while cursed, you also heal equal to your warlock level plus your charisma modifier. You can also manually put this curse on people using a bonus action once per short rest. At level 6, whenever you kill someone cursed by you, you can also spend a reaction to summon an accursed specter. There's 3 different versions of these specters that you can get based off of the size of the enemy you kill. The weakest is summoned from tiny or small corpses, the average one is summoned from medium-sized corpses, and the strongest is summoned from large or above corpses. You can also have as many of these out as you want, and they're all really handy, with the medium and above one even being able to heal you with their attacks. It's worth noting that like any Warlock subclass, this one has an expanded spell list, and at level 9 you gain access to Banishing Smite. This spell is normally only able to be gotten by a bard's magical secrets, and it's really powerful, just a huge smite that also has a chance to banish your enemies. And finally, at level 10, you get Armor of Hexes. This is a reaction you can use whenever you're attacked by a cursed target, and it has a 50% chance to nullify any attack, making you even tankier. Last but not least is the School of Blade Singing Wizard, another subclass that turns a caster into a frontline menace, weaving devastating spells alongside destructive melee attacks in order to build up to an explosive finale. At second level, you gain Training in War and Song, which grants proficiency with light armor and the performance skill, as well as a whole assortment of melee weapons, alongside the titular Blade Song ability. When you invoke the Blade Song, which you can do without a bonus or regular action, you gain a +2 bonus to your AC, your move speed increases by 3 meters, you gain advantage in acrobatics, and a +2 to your constitution saving throws. The AC and con save boost goes up to 3 at level 5 and 4 at level 9. There's also a whole host of restrictions that you can see on the ability card here, and you can only use this ability twice per long rest when you get it at level 2, 3 times at level 5, and 4 times at level 9. But while your Blade Song is active, you gain access to the Blade Song Climax ability. This is a bonus action that also eats up 3 meters of move speed, and it deals scaling damage and healing based off of how many damage and healing Blade Song charges you have. In order to get the damage charges, you need to cast leveled spells that aren't weapon attacks, and to get the healing charges, all you need to do is attack with a weapon. Once used, this ends your Blade Song, but it deals a d6 damage and healing in an AoE around you to enemies and allies respectively per the respective amount of charges you have. The damage charges can be pretty awkward to build up, so I find using this as a last resort healing ability is the way to go. At level 6, your next subclass ability is an extra attack so that you can whack people even more, and your final level 10 ability is Song of Defense. This is a reaction that can only be used during your Blade Song when you take a hit, and it allows you to expend a spell slot to subtract 5 damage per spell slot level from the hit you just took. Although fair warning, this can get pretty awkward with abilities that have damage riders. With that, we'll move on to checking out the brand new spells added, the first of which is Booming Blade. This is a brand new cantrip that instead of using your spellcasting ability, just uses a regular melee weapon attack roll to cast. If you hit a target with this attack, they'll take a d8 extra thunder damage when they move. However, at level 5, they'll also take a d8 thunder damage when you first hit them, and when they move, the damage goes up to 2d8. And at level 11, the damage goes up to 2d8 on contact and 3d8 when they move. You can also use this cantrip once per action, and it works with extra attack, meaning there's no reason not to take this if you're planning on whacking people with your weapon anyways. Next up, we have another cantrip in the form of Bursting Sinew. This cantrip takes an action and blows up a fresh corpse on the ground, dealing AoE damage to anyone nearby. It's a d10 when you first get it, 2d10 at level 5, 3d10 at level 10, and it's a dex save to try and avoid. Worth noting that because it's a necromancy cantrip, it does have synergy with the new Death Domain Cleric's Reaper feature. The last of the new cantrips is Toll the Dead, another single target necromancy cantrip that deals a d8 necrotic damage to full health targets and a d12 necrotic damage to any targets missing their health. You get 2 of these damage dice at level 5 and 3 at level 10, and it's a wisdom save to try and avoid. The first leveled spell we'll be taking a look at is Shadow Blade. This is a second level bonus action spell that summons a short sword that deals 2d8 psychic damage and grants advantage on attack rolls against any target that is in dim light or darkness. You can upcast this to deal 3d8 damage with a 3rd or 4th level spell slot and 4d8 with a 5th or 6th level spell slot. Combine this with the Resonant Stone vulnerability to psychic damage aura, and you can do some really truly absurd hits. And our final spell is a 4th level spell that requires both an action, a bonus action, and your concentration. It is Staggering Smite. It takes a melee attack roll to hit, dealing an extra 46 psychic damage if you do, and then your target needs to make a wisdom save or be staggered. And if they do get staggered, they have disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks and can't take reactions for 1 turn. It may seem a little bit lackluster, but when combined with Shadow Blade and once again the psychic vulnerability aura, you can do some absurd burst. Alongside patch 8, we got the official in-game photo mode. If you're on console, you can activate this by pressing both analog sticks in at the same time, and if you're on PC, by pressing the F9 key. Once you're in photo mode, time freezes and the camera becomes freely controllable, allowing you to get whatever angle you want. But that's not all. You can also adjust dang near everything you can think of, from field of view to the exposure of the shot you're taking, the focus distance even, you name it. As if that isn't enough, you're able to move around character models as well, so you can get them in just the right position. There's also a solid section of borders you can add to frame the photo and stickers you can throw on to enhance the vibe. I would really recommend playing around with this and experimenting as much as you can, since the mind is really the limit. Here's a masterpiece that I made during my testing. And finally, it's time to talk about cross-platform play. As the name implies, this lets you play with folks on different platforms, so if you're on PC, you can now play with your friends on PlayStation and Xbox. All you need to do to get this working is create a Larian account, which you can do on their official website, and then link it to your platform in your profile. Once that's done, you can boot up the game and go to the gameplay tab in the options menu, where you'll be able to enable crossplay. In order to actually add your friends, you'll need to press the account management button on the main menu and enter their username in the add friends section of the friend list. After all that, to actually get in game, you can navigate to the multiplayer button, select crossplay, then create if you're the host of a lobby, or join if you're the one being invited. From there, you'll be good to go and can enjoy some jolly cooperation. That being said, thank you all very much for watching, and I hope you enjoy yourselves with all the new goodies added with this final major update. As always, a special thanks to our Storyteller tier members here on YouTube: Bunny Warren, Okan, Mark Rainbow, Rat King, Vivian, Rune, Lumina, Beltfed Joe, Chance Hine, El Guardia, Ramon Standalone, Witch Amy, Jesse Kate, and Tao.